Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time I'm going to be talking about why I am convinced that Zelda's 40th anniversary is going to deliver. It's going to excite fans, and it's something that we're definitely going to be very happy about once Nintendo shows their cards here. And there's several factors to this, but ultimately it's centered around the game that we've been talking about for such a long time, the game that has been rumored and theorized, we've seen all the evidence for. There's been a build-up here. Nintendo has even in some ways teased it, like you look at the Ocarina of Time Lego set, and of course all the reports, some of those things have already been confirmed, like Splatoon Raiders in July, and the bigger thing being Star Fox. But there's more to it, and so that's what we're getting into this time. So a lot of people were disappointed when February came and went, and we didn't get like a big Nintendo Direct or any sort of Zelda anniversary announcement. There were presentations, we had the Pokemon Presents and we had a Nintendo Direct partner showcase, but there wasn't a significant demonstration of Nintendo projects and there wasn't anything Zelda mentioned, and a lot of people were upset by this and a lot of people felt like this was bad news for Zelda anniversary plans. And the thing is, there has been kind of this point that people make every few years that Nintendo doesn't celebrate Zelda's anniversaries in a big way, and this is just factually incorrect, but it's still a common talking point that I consistently see made online. And so once February came around, the actual anniversary month of Zelda, and nothing happened, those people took that to mean there wouldn't be any sort of Zelda 40th anniversary celebration this year, nothing of substance. But the thing is, if you take a look at history, if you look at the facts, nothing happening in February should not have been that big of a surprise. Yes, if we go back to 2021, in February, there was a Nintendo Direct, and in that Nintendo Direct, we did get the announcement for Skyward Sword. And so that was a Zelda announcement that came out in the 35th year anniversary, and it was made in the anniversary month. But if you go back, you'll also notice there was zero mention of the actual anniversary, and a subtle suggestion that there would be more Zelda stuff discussed later on into the year. It wasn't until that summer Nintendo Direct presentation, where they gave us more details on Skyward Sword, announced the 35th anniversary celebration Game & Watch, and showed us our next teaser for the sequel to Breath of the Wild, which eventually came to be known as Tears of the Kingdom. And so those announcements all came together. Those were the actual anniversary celebrations for 2021, the 35th anniversary of Zelda. You go back to 2016, they had that concert series as well. They had the big demonstration of Breath of the Wild in that summer period. You'll go back to the 25th anniversary. Skyward Sword was the anniversary game. It was a part of the branding that was mostly showcased in June. And so my point here is that every 5 years, Nintendo does have celebrations for the Zelda series to mark these big anniversary milestones. And these announcements are usually not really made in February, but actually June. And this isn't just about what I want, this is about what makes sense. Nintendo does the anniversary stuff because it makes them money. That Ocarina of Time Lego set makes money. The Mario Galaxy games that came out for Mario's 40th anniversary a few months back, that made Nintendo money. The cross-promotion of the Mario's 40th anniversary, talking about all these different games leading to the movie, which has become an incredible success, that made Nintendo a lot of money. And surely, especially with the live-action Zelda movie coming out late April of next year now, as they start to promote that movie, using Zelda's anniversary to further promote that and also promote other games so they can see a sales boost in lead up to the movie and afterwards, very much in the same way it's worked for Mario with the last couple movie releases. It's actually a perfect storm of marketing here. So I very much expect Nintendo to do this. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean Nintendo's going to go big here. They could do small little things, like Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 weren't significant remasters. Maybe we will not be getting a significant remake for Ocarina of Time, but there are reasons to suggest it will be a significant remake. We go back to the patent we saw. That looks like they're exploring around with using Navi as a way to interact with an environment that appears to be kind of like the Forest Temple. If they're creating patents like that, that might be suggestive that they're going to be reworking some of the gameplay structures here. From the Ocarina of Time remake reports, we've heard that it's supposed to be a full remake. Special Nick had put out there that he heard it's supposed to have a big budget. And then you take a look at this recently announced Star Fox, it is a remake. But it's a pretty significant remake for Nintendo standards. Not only has it made to look like a modern game, and it's considered to be one of the best looking games on Switch 2 thus far, but they've added new modes. Multiplayer modes with online play, all the game chat stuff, all the quality of life updates, the control options, the challenge modes, and we've even seen some story stuff as well. There's new story details in this Star Fox remake. And I've been making this point ad nauseum here, but the implication is that Nintendo will at least do something to that level. And so if we're talking about getting new story details, new story elements in the Ocarina of Time remake, from a Zelda fan perspective, this is huge. We go back to Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom showed us Ganondorf, or a different version of Ganondorf, not the same Ganondorf we have seen in prior games like The Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Ocarina of Time. Those are all the same Ganondorf. This Ganondorf from Tears of the Kingdom is a different one, and from the way they've explained things in terms of the timeline, this Ganondorf would be the initial, original Ganondorf before the Ganondorf we've known for all these generations. But there's also his attendants, Kotaka and Koeme, who are these young Gerudo. But then you look at Ocarina of Time, and those characters are these old, ancient witches. There's a potential setup here, and if the plan was always to remake Ocarina of Time in a big way, then we can see those connections made. It kind of goes back to that Nintendo Dream Magazine interview where Aonuma made mention of the character Rauru, and not thinking fans today would really know who that character is from Ocarina of Time. In other words, not that many people would understand the significance of the name of Rauru, the first king of Hyrule in Tears of the Kingdom. But with this example of Star Fox, where Nintendo would be more willing to revisit the story and change some things around, and to consider all the setup and potential connections and hints from different interviews about how Tears of the Kingdom could connect to Ocarina of Time, there's some huge potential here to change things around a little bit, or rather, fill in the gaps. And so as a Zelda fan, there is some exciting potential here. Even if they don't reimagine a lot of the gameplay structures, if they just fill in a little bit more of the story stuff, if there are these cutscenes with voice acting that tell us a little bit more, if there's a little bit more text, if there's a little bit more things filled out in the background, they could have some lore implications, that could be huge. And so I'm left feeling pretty confident that this Ocarina of Time remake is going to deliver. We've heard there's supposed to be a Zelda Special Edition Switch 2. Fans are going to eat that up. And so even if the anniversary is just basically, hey, we're getting this remake this year, there's going to be a special Zelda Switch 2 edition, and we're going to be promoting this live action movie throughout the year until it comes out early next year, that alone is going to be fantastic, and I think we're going to start seeing this stuff in a Nintendo Direct in June, as different insiders have been reporting. Which brings me to another point. There's been this fear that we might get a partner showcase again, but what's interesting is that we're just a few days away from the end of May, and Summer Games Fest is just around the corner at the beginning of June. It appears we might be past the time of just getting a partner showcase, and as I've talked about before, when we've gone partner showcases, that usually takes up the role of a bigger Nintendo Direct. The fear of it just being a partner showcase, well, at least for me, it's been dissipating quite a bit. And so when you consider this history of big Zelda anniversary reveals in June, the need for there to be a June presentation, what insiders have been reporting, the timing of things. We even have Negro Felipe who's saying he's heard it's going to be a big Direct, not a partner. Rumor, take it with a grain of salt, but things seem to be aligning here. But you know, I'm going to go a step further here in expressing my excitement. And I say this knowing that perhaps I'm talking about expecting too much, but I've been thinking about it. I know a lot of you have been thinking about it. We've been doing this series where I play through Ocarina of Time and imagine the different changes that would make sense depending on how ambitious they're going to go. But what if they are going a step further here with this remake? Not just reimagine story elements and recontextualizing Ocarina of Time with Tears of the Kingdom in mind, but what if they are adding new content? What if they do add a new dungeon in Ocarina of Time? As we've talked about, adding an actual light temple makes so much sense when you meet Rauru. Like, he talks about the Temple of Light, but there is no actual Temple of Light that you explore in Ocarina of Time. There's just the Chamber of the Sages, and that's after you go through the Temple of Time, not the Temple of Light. So actually getting a Temple of Light dungeon, story-wise, makes so much sense, especially if you consider that now that Link has made this leap 7 years into the future, he needs some opportunity to adapt to his new body, his new adult form. So having kind of like a challenge dungeon where he's tested by Rauru and trained up to use his adult form before setting out into this world that's been conquered by Ganondorf, it just makes so much sense. Will Nintendo go that far? Obviously, that remains to be seen, but there is that opportunity there. I'm allowing myself to get excited for the possibility, even though I recognize they may not go that far. But if they are going to go this far, we also consider the cut content of the medallions. The medallions, initially, were supposed to each give you your own powers, and it makes sense. In Ocarina of Time, they talk about how these different sages bestow their power upon you. Their power is now joined yours. But there is no actual power difference when you get the medallions. They're just items you have on your quest screen. That's all they are. They're keys, and you need them all together before you can do anything with them, which is just creating a rainbow bridge. So if they're going to be taking things a step further here, giving us different abilities with the medallions, reimagining a little bit how Ocarina of Time works, there's so much potential there. And seeing how this game is going to look, I'm excited to see what direction they're taking the art here, because the art's incredible, but how would that look if they were to make it with the Switch 2 hardware? I'm getting hyped just thinking about it, and now that we're at the end of May, it feels like we're finally getting to that point where these things are going to happen, where we're going to see this remake. We're probably going to learn a little bit more about the movie, I imagine. I don't think it's time for the first trailer, but maybe they'll tell us, like, who the actor is for Ganondorf, for example. Maybe Rauru or something like that. Maybe they'll mention some other characters and tell us about who the actors would be for those characters. We keep hearing about random extras that are part of the live-action Zelda movie. Maybe Nintendo is going to beat the leaks to the chase here and just reveal the actors for some of the main characters in the movie outside of Link and Zelda. I think that's a reasonable expectation there. And could there be other Zelda 40th anniversary stuff? I am sure. I don't think we're going to see everything in this June presentation. There's going to be other things throughout the year and beyond. There's some rumors, but I'll leave it at that for now. What do you all think, though? Are Zelda fans going to be satisfied with what Nintendo will show for Zelda's 40th anniversary? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've gone this far and you find yourself enjoying my videos and you haven't subscribed already, please do. But I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.